The name of this next horse is Hoof Hearted, but listen to the call.
Hoof Hearted on the extreme outside. Colorado Co-Ed, Toast a Dozen on the inside. Quester's Jet, Hoof Hearted on the outside, it's close. Hoof Hearted in the winner's circle.
¡Claro que sí! ¡Ay, ja, ja! ¡Sí, señor!
What is up, pod people? This is another episode of Hoof Hearted. I am Doc, and I was recently on a episode of Astro Detectives. Astro Detectives is a show about astrology. So, anyways, it was a pretty cool show. And I'm going to go ahead and play what I recorded from it. So my end of the recording. If you guys want to hear the whole episode, go to Astro Detectives on Spotify. They're on multiple podcast apps, whatever you call them. So anyways, give them a listen. Even if you don't like astrology, it's actually kind of interesting. I'm not a believer in astrology, but I am a curious person. So it's a great concept. You guys should check it out. Our phone number, you guys can call us. The phone number is 661-379-0020. You could contact me directly on that with a text or a phone call. You can leave a message. Also, you can contact me on Instagram. That is Doc Farted on Instagram. You could also contact the podcast, Hoof Hearted Podcast, on Instagram. And if you want to get in contact with Mex, he is _Mexalorian on Instagram. That is also his Twitch. And that is also, what else is he? Oh, yeah, his TikTok. My TikTok is Doc Farted, of course. Don't go on there much, but I think if we had more people checking us out, then I would make the time. So anyways, yeah, that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started for you guys. I hope you guys have had a good Thanksgiving and have a good December. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you hear us now?
I can hear you, yeah. For some reason.
Okay, great.
Hold on.
Okay,
a second.
good.
Let me. Whatever. Okay. All right then. It was my mixer, so still don't know the technology that much. So, and let me see if I. Yeah, here we go.
You got a mixer over there?
Yeah, it's for the pocket. Oh, that's a flattering angle.
All right. Now I will say Dave checked the box that says we can't use the video from this episode.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay.
he doesn't care about the angles.
No, I just wanted you guys to be, because I was listening to one of your podcasts and you said that it helps you guys if you can actually see the person, so you kind of get an idea.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be able to give you that, even though I'm not really thrilled with this angle, but the camera adds.
Well, the only people that'll see this are the ones in this chat right
Sweet.
now.
Okay. Well, I mean, I do have pants on just in case, but
thank you.
You're welcome.
This is a dress code. We try to run a tight professional ship here.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. So, yeah. Mike's in the way. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. Well, obviously it can be in the way. Audio quality is the most important thing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I hope that's good.
That's great. You sound better than we do, which is going to be a problem.
Nah.
We need
I don't
you to.
think
We
so.
need the guests to be a little bit poorer audio quality than we are.
I could put in an effect or something. I could sound like a robot or whatever.
So you said you heard a little bit of the show before?
Yeah. I actually listened to a couple episodes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you kind of know
Mm-hmm.
what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions coming into it?
No. No, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Yeah. And I gotta tell you, I'm rooting for you guys, because
All right.
Thanks.
each
Which guy? Which of us?
All of us.
All
Just
of
to have a
us.
good. Okay.
all of you. I hope this is
Okay.
a successful show. I the episodes that I listened to, you guys were wrong each time. So
Oh, great. Well, did you listen to the first episodes? Is that what you mean, or
No,
later
no.
episodes?
It was a couple of the later ones. But
Okay.
yeah, I can't remember which ones they were. But it was funny though. The one that I listened to, the first one I listened to, the guy said he lived in Bakersfield, and I was like, oh, that's funny because that's where I live. So I was like, small world, right? But
Making friends.
yeah. Well, he said he spent time there. He actually doesn't. He was from Utah. He lived in Utah.
Oh, I think it was Mike.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's who I
Mike.
was thinking it was.
Mike's a
Yeah.
great guy.
Yeah. So
All
I was
right.
like, that's cool. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I am. I don't know if I don't want to. I talk too much, so I'm gonna.
Oh, don't
shut
worry.
up.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll,
yeah, don't-
we'll,
don't-
Yeah, we'll get you talking once the episode
Yeah.
starts.
But
But
you-
mainly, I just wanted to say that don't say anything about your age, anything about your birthday, obviously, and then if you know anything about your sign or astrology in general, just try to speak from who you are and
Okay.
nothing to do with any other influences. And
Okay.
so the more we can just ignore that there's any astrology component in this show, and we're just going to be asking you like an interview and just kind of like talk about yourself in the same way that the other people did. The less that you can be thinking about astrology, the better.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
Cool. Then I'll go ahead and bring us back in unless anybody else has any questions or needs anything.
Good to go.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are here on our 30th episode, the final episode of season 1. We've got Sarah, our astrologer. We've got Kathy, our guest astrologer. And now we're joined with our guest this week, which is David or Dave. We'll find out. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Do you have a preference between David or Dave?
I prefer Dave, but yeah,
All right.
yeah, it's fine either way. And also,
We're going to roll with
I just want to say I am recovering from a cold, so my voice is a little, but yeah,
It sounds great for radio.
I was going to say,
I should be sick more often, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it drops a couple octaves or an octave. Well, that would be a huge drop.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'm uncomfortable when somebody has a deeper voice than me on the show, but I'm going to try and get through it.
Okay. Well, you're a trooper.
Well, we kind of go through the categories in order, and we're going to ask you some questions in each one, and hopefully it helps the astrologers distinguish between the two birth charts they're looking at. But Dave, we're going to start with work. This is what do you do? What have you been good at? What have you done in the past? What's on your mind in terms of work?
Okay. Good at nothing. I'm good at talking, which really I haven't done anything. I mean, I've worked with like customer service kind of jobs, but like currently I am working as a janitor for a school district, but due to a work-related injury, I am actually not doing that right now. So I'm doing Uber and Lyft, so I'm doing rideshare. And but I mostly have worked in pizza. So my first job as an adult was as a delivery driver, and I worked in the pizza business off and on for like 20 years, more than 20 years actually. Yeah.
The pizza business for 20 years.
Yeah,
A
pretty
different,
much.
always as a driver or different areas of the business?
I worked as a driver, And then I was usually working in the morning. And when you work in the morning, you just kind of do everything. So I was doing like food prep, and then I started cooking and taking phone orders, and then eventually I ended up becoming a shift leader. So and then I ended up I was friends with like the guy who was the store manager. So I eventually ended up following him when he opened up his own store after I kept bugging him to open up his own store. And I was one of his assistant managers. So yeah, so I
And
did that.
what is it about that work that you enjoyed? Is there certain areas where you're like, I like doing this part? Obviously, every job's going to have parts you don't like, but were there certain parts of that job that you gravitated towards?
The pizza.
Just the
It's
enjoyment of
it's
pizza
my
itself.
it's my favorite food. Even after working in it forever, like the smell of pizza is like home to me. So I mean, I love it. I love pizza, and then I love just coming up with all kinds of crazy combinations. And I don't like pepperoni because it's basic, and and that's what everybody always orders. So give me something crazy, give me something wild. So, but honestly, like it was the pizza. And then when I was delivering pizzas, I liked the fact that I could leave the store. So like when it would be really hectic, I would end up leaving, and that was fantastic for me because I can go ahead and turn on my radio, listen to the radio. I listened to a lot of audiobooks, listen to podcasts. So that was great. I mean, every time I try to read, I fall asleep. So being able to listen to books was fantastic. So I've been able to like listen to a lot of books that I always wanted to read. So that was great. I got to leave the store. But when I was a manager, it was more like it was just like the natural progression. But because I had been there so long, it's like, well, you can't just be a delivery driver forever. But I never really liked it, to be honest with you. I'm very scatterbrained, and I'm not good at multitasking, and I forget a lot of things if I don't write it down. Um, I'm terrible with that kind of stuff. And I don't like fast food, and I don't like rushes. For me, I like chill. So yeah, that's that. So, but that's just kind of where I was always landing was pizza. I did try other jobs like along the way, because like I was married and I was always trying to find some kind of job that would allow me uh, to provide more for my family, but it just never worked out. So like I was offered higher paying jobs at different places. Like one was a drugstore, um, where I was like gonna be like the head of like a mailing center, kind of like a UPS store. But that wasn't given to me, and then like there was another job where I was gonna be a parts runner for like an RV store, and and then they put me into shipping and receiving, and it turns out the only reason why I was put in there was because the manager, the head of the parts department was using me as a scapegoat because he was actually like doing some sort of fraud. So so that didn't work out. And I'm trying to think what else I was trying to do. Like I was just trying to do all sorts of jobs. Even
Well, I
tried.
can tell Sarah, or
Go ahead.
we don't want to do too many of the jobs or anything, and I can
Okay,
tell
so
Sarah's got a question on the
okay,
tip
go
of her
for it.
tongue.
Go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say I totally relate to you what you were saying about being a delivery driver. I used to work in restaurant management, and occasionally I would get to run deliveries, and it was just like so nice to
Oh yeah.
leave all the hectic behind
Oh
and
yeah,
be
definitely.
like, I gotta take this delivery and just, listen to some chill music in my
Mm-hmm.
car.
Yes.
I was just gonna ask what kind of podcasts or audiobooks do you listen to?
Oh, well, for the video game stuff, also mysteries, and like true crime stuff.
Okay.
And I also like the thing that I gravitate to the most would be, some people would call it conspiracy theory. I like to call it alternative thought. So so because that term has such a negative, I don't know, it kind of leaves you with an icky feeling. When you say, "Oh, I'm a conspiracy theorist," you're like, "Oh, where's your tinfoil hat?" It's like it's right underneath the ball cap. But for me, it's just I like to think. I like to think outside the box. I like to think of like what a lot of times I'll play devil's advocate. So I would, I just like to know both sides of the story, and then I also like to think like, I don't know. I just really like wonder and magic, and I think that there's all sorts of things out there, and it's just like with the astrology. I'm not a believer in it, but I would like to be. But
Yeah.
it's like I like talking about the idea of like time travel, even though I don't believe in it. Parallel universes, which I do believe in, but Bigfoot, things like that. Those are the things I like. Those are the kind of audiobooks and podcasts that I would listen to.
I love Bigfoot.
Yeah, he's real. I'm telling you, he's real. He's real. He's
See,
just
Scott?
he's a
Yeah.
cranky. He is a cranky old man. He lives in the woods, and he just doesn't want to be bothered.
And everybody's looking for him.
Everybody's looking for him. Yeah.
Well, I got to ask too, you have a pretty professional microphone set up there with headphones. Any other hobbies?
Yeah, I mean, I play video games and I have a podcast. So I just started. A friend of mine that I worked with at one of the pizza places, we were always talking about podcasts. And he was like the only other person I knew that was listening to podcasts like 10, 12 years ago. And we were like, man, we got to start a podcast. We got to start a podcast. And eventually, we couldn't then, but now we had the ability to do it. And we're like, let's do it. So we have a podcast now. So we finally started it. And, it was, consistency is an issue. So, but it's hard when, you have like two people in it and you have to find the time to get, your schedules connected. So that's where we have an issue. He works in retail, so his hours are always fluctuating. And
Okay,
yeah.
and what is it called and what is it about?
What is it called? It is called Hoof Hearted. And good, you get the joke. You get the joke. And
It took me a second.
yeah. It's not about horses, and I think I've had that mistake before. Some people in Texas listened to the show, and it was just like one episode that they listened to, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure they were disappointed. It's not about horses, but it is basically about the same thing that I like to listen to as far as podcasts go: alternative thought and video games, pop culture, stuff like that. So the main focus of our show is ask questions and don't be afraid to think. Don't be afraid to question what everybody else is telling you. So that's what we like to do. We like to just have some sort of discussion about some of the things that people would say you might be a little crazy for believing in. So, like, we've had a discussion, me and my co-host, about flat Earth. He believes in it. I don't. And, but the main thing is that we like to have a discussion and the possibilities of what each could be. Because for me, and I think for my co-host too, we like we just like hearing other people's like opinions and their thoughts and their ideas. So I think that that's me and him may not agree on stuff, but it's pretty good. And then we try to do it in a lighthearted way. So we even had an episode where we talked about zombies taking over the world. So we the possibility of it being true.
There might be a lot of crossover between our listeners and your listeners.
Oh, I hope so.
Because, I mean, that's basically what Sarah and I were thinking about just on the one subject of astrology is let's talk about it. And have you ever thought about finding ways for you and your friend to test the flat earth theory?
I think so many people have already done it. And I think that there's a lot of podcasts out there that actually will give a lot of information about stuff. And I think that the people who listen to that want all the knowledge, excuse me, they can find that in other podcasts. I think our podcast is more for people who are not really into like alternative thought, and they just kind of need that intro. So they're like, oh, I never even heard of that before. And then like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll look into that. So, I mean, mainly because I'm lazy, I don't want to do the research. So, and then he's too busy. So, he's like, no, I'm not going to do it, man. So my co-host is a pothead. I am not, but I've been accused of it plenty of times. So, yeah, so we're just both very chill dudes, and we don't really want to do the research. So we just keep it very, superficial, I guess, on the top layer of the information.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
We got some good character attributes from you too in that description too. I don't know, astrologers, did you have any questions on work or character?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Kathy.
Sorry. My quick question is, you talked about getting a job to provide for your family, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious if between you and your current spouse, or you had a spouse before, if you've ever had any sort of power struggles or things like that around money issues.
I don't know. Like with my ex-wife, it's hard to say, because I mean that was a really terrible situation. So I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't remember, like little tidbits that I don't remember because it kind of blocked it out, I guess. But I know that we used to make a lot of money, and then I think to myself, where did all that money go? I have no idea. But she made more money than I did. So that never really bothered me, but I think it bothered her. She was always like telling me like she wanted to stay home with the kids. And I'm like, well, you're the one that decided to marry a dude who delivers pizzas. I don't know what to tell you, I'm like, I don't know why this is on me. This is your bad, So, but my current wife, no, I mean, we have sometimes where we struggle, like if there's, I mean, I think everybody's struggling right now anyways, but as far as like issues with money, it's just a matter of like, I used to have problems spending money. Like I would always want to spend money. Like anytime I would leave, I felt like this urge to buy something. But I knew that that's not like a good habit to have. So I just try to keep myself from doing that. And if there's any kind of like big purchase or something like that, like even with this mic and this mixer and all this stuff, like before I ended up doing any of it, I asked my wife first. Not that she's in charge of the money, just that I wanted to make sure that she was okay with me spending that money. And, so, I mean, I don't need her permission, but I don't want it to be a cause of like conflict or anything like that.
Well, let's talk about if there was conflict coming up emotionally. Can you describe your experience, like what makes you angry, or what's your experience with emotions, and how do you cheer yourself up too? Either way.
Like, honestly, I think the thing that gets me the most upset would be if the like I don't like people like arguing. My wife and I now, like, we haven't fought like at all since we've been together. We've been together since 2018. We never had a fight. Now my previous wife, it was a fight all the time. But I think the thing that thing that really upsets me the most probably is like when the kids, you tell them to do something and then they want to make it into a fight, and it's like, just do what I say. I'm the adult. I might be wrong, but just do what I say. Like that's the part. That's the part of being the kid. You have to just do what the adult says, even if you think the adult's an idiot. You just got to do it. And then someday you will be the adult and you get to do that. So I think that's probably that gets me upset. Like when everything just needs to be a fight. It's like, I just told you to put your shoes on. We have to leave. Why is this becoming a fight? So that gets me a little irritated. But to calm down, I'm very forgetful. So usually I just calm down after a couple minutes because I've already forgotten about it. But if I'm like really, like when I was delivering pizzas, I would get really mad at like people cutting me off or people not giving me a tip or, all these things. And then the things that would like relax me would be I would listen to, it depended on what kind of mood I wanted to be in. Like if I really needed to calm down, I would listen to classical music. If I needed to have a more like relaxed, like chill kind of vibe, I would listen to reggae music. And then if I wanted to feel more like upbeat and more happy, I would listen to like dance, like electronic dance music. I don't dance, but but I just like the music. So it'd be music that would kind of get me into a certain kind of mood, and then also too, like if I'm at home, then something to kind of like zone out and like really forget about anything would be, I would just play games, video games. So usually it would be like a sports video game. So I like to create my own character and put it on the easiest level and then break all the records and get all these stats. And, I don't like there to be any challenge in any of my video games. I want it to be easy. Some people like video games really hard, and I'm like, why? Like video games are supposed to be relaxing. Like, why do you want to die 1,000,000 times in an hour? Like that makes no sense to me. So I just put it on the easiest level and just play it, and then just relax, enjoy the story, enjoy being involved in the story. And in sports games, even when I was a kid, when I'd play a sport game, I would make myself one of the characters or one of the players, and then I would pretend I was one of them. I would do like announcing, like I do the baseball announcing and all that stuff. So I kind of turned the sports game into a story.
That's funny. A video game should build you up. You want to feel good and successful doing it. Why would you want to play a video game that makes you feel incompetent?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'm not good at video games. I've been playing since I was a little kid, and I stink at them. But some people like that challenge. They want to feel that accomplishment, from beating something extremely hard. And I'm like, real life is hard enough, and I don't like. Let me finish that. That'll be the accomplishment. That means something, right? But a video game is not life. I'm not winning anything from this. This is just time to relax.
And there's still a sense of accomplishment when you beat just the 2 zombies rather than the 10 zombies in the room.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could actually name the 2 zombies, and it has more personal feeling to it.
And you think, hey guys, maybe let's talk this out.
Yeah, exactly. You try to talk it out with the zombies first, and then they're just like, So Yeah.
You kind of touched on a romantic partner earlier with previous marriage, but can you speak to now a little bit more on current spouse and then maybe a little bit of the previous spouse too on that category, just like what comes to mind? If you were describing them basically.
She's playful.
Is this your
Wait,
current spouse?
my current spouse. She's playful. She is not a people person. She's definitely an introvert. Um, she is more grounded than I am. I'm more of like head in the clouds, daydream, that kind of stuff. And she's more real, like realistic. Um, but she's very playful, so that's fun. Um, trying to think. Yeah, I
How
mean,
about your ex?
my ex.
Mhm. Like, can you start what initially drew you to her?
To my ex or my current wife?
Your ex, your first
My
wife.
ex. Oh, she liked me. That was it.
It's a good start right there.
I was young. I was young, and I was not. I did not have a lot of. I did not have a lot of success with the ladies. So I was very like naive, and I was raised like Christian, and so my with my ex, she I knew that she liked me, so I hung out with her, and then like the first time that we were together alone, she took it further than I wanted it to go because I was a goody Christian, and I didn't want to go that far, but it went that far because whatever. I don't want to go into too much details, but then after that, it was just guilt. So I felt guilty, and so I stayed with her. And then every single time I wanted to break up, she would guilt me into staying with her. And because I was naive and because I didn't have a lot of experience, I believed everything she was saying. So, and then, and then eventually we got married, and then like about a year into the marriage, I was like, I gotta get out of this. And then she said she was pregnant, and I'm like, crap. Okay, now I gotta stay. And then, and then about a year after he was born, um, then I was like, I gotta get out of this. Actually, it was a couple years after. I'm like, I gotta get out of this. I can't take this anymore. And then she's like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, great. Now I'm stuck here forever. So, and I know that kind of makes me sound like a terrible person, but I wanted to always stay for two reasons. And that was because I made a promise in front of God. And then also because I wanted to be there for my kids. But then I just realized that I'm not the parent that I should be. So I got out of there. She was or is bipolar, and it was undiagnosed. So it was the manic lows and then the manic highs, and the manic highs were angry. So she was just always angry, angry or sad. So it was a bad situation. She was like emotionally and physically abusive to me. So she picked one person that she was going to be terrible towards, and that was me. Never to the kids, which was great, but I got everything. So I had to take all of that. Yeah. So there are a lot of things I don't really remember. I just remember bad with her. I do know that we did laugh sometimes, but it was so few and far between that I can't really recall like what those instances were. Where with my current wife, we laugh all the time over the silliest things. And then also the cool thing with her is I can actually have a conversation with my current wife about things that are pointless. You know, I don't tell her all my conspiracy thoughts or anything like that because she's not interested in that. You know, I'm not going to bore her with that. So, um, she makes fun of some of the stuff that I end up talking about. I actually have some crystals in my in my nightstand, and she makes fun of me for having the crystals. So I don't know how they work. I don't have the book anymore to tell me how they work. But yeah. So yeah, she's funny. I mean, we're able to poke fun at each other, knowing that it's not serious. She's my best friend. And yeah, I love her a lot. But we went through a lot of crap to get to where we are now.
Well, she'll be very happy to hear that last part, especially if she listens to this episode. That's
Yeah.
the solid endorsement of the relationship.
Yes. Yeah. But she probably won't listen because she doesn't like talk radio. She thinks it's boring.
Well, then never mind.
Yeah,
Okay, spill
yeah.
it. What's all the things that are wrong?
I know, right? Yeah, yeah. Well, she doesn't like talk radio or podcasts, so
Ooh.
she's like, "You're gonna go do your stupid podcast again?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I try to do all that stuff when she's not here, and then that way I can spend time with her, and you know, spend time with the kids. So I usually do it when the kids are away. I've been fortunate enough to have a job to where I go in later, so in the morning I'm able to do podcast and edit and all that stuff. So, but yeah, she doesn't
Do you
like
do
podcasts. Wasn't?
Do you do them right? Do you do the podcast right there in that closet?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I used to do it at my old, because I moved, but now I'm in the closet. So,
No, it's cool. That was a question related to the astrology. So
oh,
just
was
see
it? Yeah, yeah. We do. I do it in here, and then my buddy's actually my co-host. He's at his house. So, but we have been talking about doing it in person. But I do it in here just because of the acoustics. It's not because it's comfortable. I just want it to sound good.
Yeah, all those clothes, they dampen all of the bouncing audio waves just
Mhm.
perfectly.
Yeah,
If I had room in my closet, maybe I'd be there.
yeah, yeah.
He's got a walk-in closet here, this guy.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Right?
beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's fine.
Astrologers, any other questions before we move on?
Let me look, if you give me just 1 sec. I feel like I had something around relationships. Oh, I noticed that your second marriage, it seemed like you got married right after COVID hit. Can you tell us sort of like how you decided to get married, what was going on at that time?
Okay.
If it was related to COVID or the kids or
Well, we met in 2018 and on the internet. It was Plenty of Fish. Not a sponsor. But
Maybe.
yeah,
maybe.
oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But so we met then, and I'm the type of person where like energy is really like important. And her energy, I don't know, there was something about her that I really felt connected to and warm and comfortable. And I I feel bad that I didn't even mention it before, but one of the things that really calms me down is being able to touch her. So like the physical contact. I think that's like my strongest love language would be like physical touch. And you guys know what love languages are, right?
Yeah,
Never heard of that. What is that?
you're kidding.
They're kidding.
I'm
Okay.
kidding.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
all
like,
right.
who hasn't heard of love language?
Yeah. I don't know. Not everybody.
Me a couple of years ago. I've
Yeah.
only known it for a couple of years now. I think love languages have just had a big resurgence recently.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I actually,
All
when
right.
I was
Sorry.
looking for people to, while I was online dating, like I was always asking their love language. So I made sure that because that was important. But so with her, like just touching her made me feel really good. Um, So I knew very early that I had strong feelings for her. Like from the time that we were talking, um, like just texting, like I felt comfortable and at home. So within like, I know it sounds crazy, but within a couple of weeks, I already told her that I loved her. Like once I had met her, I've never been, I've never not seen her. Like every single day I've seen her since like a week after we first started talking. So, and then we were dating for a week and I already told her that I loved her. And yeah, there's not a day that's gone by that I haven't seen her. And anyways, so we ended up moving in together, and that was before COVID. And then we were like, let's, I ended up proposing to her, and she said yes, obviously. And then we were planning on getting married in 2020. We were going to get married March 2020. Do you want to know the date?
You gave it to us, I think.
I
Yeah.
think
No, I
it's
didn't-
in the survey.
Did it? Okay. All right. Cool.
As long as you don't say anything like, and here's how old I was
Oh yeah.
when
No,
it happened.
no.
Yeah.
So it was March. It was supposed to be March 28th was when we were actually going to get married, but we met an officiant that was going to actually like, what was it, post date it or whatever to April 1st. So then that way, like on record, our marriage would be April Fool's Day because we thought that would be funny. So
I think it's not legally binding if it's on April Fool's Day. You can always, if you need an out, you just say, we were kidding.
shh, don't say anything. Don't say anything. No, that would never happen. But so we already had the wedding planned. We had we had a spot, we had an officiant, we had everything planned, and then COVID hit, and we were like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? So, and we were like, we were just constantly, we're checking the news. We were like, okay, are we gonna be able to go to Vegas? Because that's where we wanted to go for our honeymoon. Vegas is closed. Can we go to San Diego? No, San Diego's closed. Oh crap. So then the courthouse closed where we were at, and we're like, we need to go do this now. And part of the reason why we decided not to wait was because I have insurance and she needed a procedure done. And so we're like, we need to do this now. If she didn't have that health issue, we could have easily waited. But because she had the health issue, we needed to take care of it right away. So, so we went ahead and just, we went about an hour and a half away and got the license, got all that taken care of. And then we ended up getting married in a Starbucks parking lot. So because it was the only place when there was no I do's, there was no ring exchange. The officiant just came down and then signed it and had the witness sign it, and that was it. So yeah, it was, in my idea, it was the perfect wedding. Because there was no like big ordeals or anything like that. There was nothing fancy. So, but
Did
yeah.
you get some frappuccinos after?
No, and I think we were in shock. So we just were like, okay, that's it. So I guess we'll leave. But now looking back, I think she was pretty disappointed that we didn't get some coffee while we were there, But yeah.
Well, moving along from romantic partners, where we've all had a pretty good time, but we're going to have to leave that segment of your life behind and go even further back in time to the childhood experience, remembering growing up. What was that like? What was your childhood experience like?
Overall, I think it was pretty good. Like I was very big for my age. Like not just like I'm always been a husky kid, but I was also tall. So I mean, by the time I was 5'11" by the time I was 13, So, and I was the size of an adult man, but had the face of a kid. So it was very awkward. So I was a very awkward kid. But I didn't, I got made fun of a lot, like in school. So, and at church, like in church groups and stuff. So a lot of times, like my peers, I didn't really like them. I usually gravitated more towards um, like older kids, like teenagers or adults. Um, so that was usually who I would talk to. Like I would talk to adults a lot. Um, and then, but as far as like my dad had a lot of different jobs, so we moved around a lot, and I was never out of school for longer than 2.5 years. So like uh, kindergarten, first grade at one, and then uh, second and third, and then half of fourth at another. So I mean, like the longest I was at, I always had to change schools, so I was always having to make new friends, which was hard when you were a big dude. So except for when everybody wanted to play football, because then everybody wanted me to be on their team. So because I just run everybody over. But so that was we always kind of we moved around a lot around the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. So so we always went to like the one constant was like the church that we went to. So I grew up in church, and we would we went there like all the time. So we were there Sundays, we were there on Tuesdays because my parents were in the choir. We were there on Wednesdays, we were there on Thursdays because of the choir. So we were there like all the time, and I hated it. So and but a lot of the church groups, like the kid groups, like I didn't really like them too much, but when we played basketball, like that was fun. That was cool. Um, I'd have a couple of friends there that that were older, and I hung out with them. Um, do you want like some certain like specific like stories or anything?
Astrologers?
I'm getting a good idea of your childhood, I
Okay.
feel
Yeah,
like.
I
Okay.
feel like you're being really open, which is awesome.
Oh, that's
Thank
You're
you.
okay.
painting us a beautiful picture. I can tell you've got a podcast because, I could see you if you were filling airtime, we would be sitting there just enthralled. How does the time fly by? But we do have to keep a schedule here,
Yeah,
so
I'm
we're gonna
sorry.
What?
I'm a talker,
Let me
so I apologize. You got to reel me
let
in,
me
man.
just squeeze in one question. I'm
Yeah.
still trying to wrestle with how to like articulate this, but you did speak about being bullied as a child by like other kids. Did you have or do you have like some kind of, and you don't have to answer this too deeply, but do you have like this wound around like your identity? Do you relate to that, or expressing yourself? Like, was that hard as a
As a
kid?
kid, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I do like
Just
I'm
not comfortable in your own skin kind of
never,
thing.
and it's funny that you say that because like I would always feel I feel like literally I feel uncomfortable in my own skin. So I would constantly kind of be like moving my hands and then like kind of like stretching my hands and my the skin around my fingers or on my arms or because it just never felt comfortable. Um
Mm.
so yeah, so quite literally I felt uncomfortable in my own skin.
Can
Um
I
I
ask
see.
what
yeah.
have you done since then? Because you strike me now as being very comfortable in your own skin.
Uh
What's the secret?
n- n- Not giving an F. I don't know if you swear on here or not. I've never heard it, but not really caring about it. Like life's too short to be so hung up on a lot of things, you know. Um, just to be like, I mean, I guess just like accepting like this is who I am, and if I really wanted to change it, then I have the power within me to change it. Does it mean that I'm happy constantly about it? No, I'm not. Especially when I wake up in the morning and I'm all sore. I'm a big dude. It takes a lot of energy to get out of bed sometimes, but like it's just, yeah, it just, I don't know, maybe more like acceptance. Like it is what it is. Um,
Mhm.
this is, I mean, if anything, when I'm like old and gray, I can play Santa, which will be cool, you know.
Aw,
So, I mean,
that's cute.
I got the body for it, so why not? So, and I think I'm pretty jolly. So, but too, another thing too, like when I was younger, like a lot of large bullied kids, you develop a sense of humor to kind of combat that. So it was a lot of like self-deprecating jokes. Um, you know, basically control the laughter. A lot of times I was worried about people being like kids like laughing at me. If they were laughing, I thought they were laughing at me. But then I finally like realized like no, they're not laughing at me. They don't even really care about me. Like they're not thinking about me as much as I think they're thinking about me. So and then also too like as far as like getting older, I just realized everybody has problems. Everybody has their own issues. So when they maybe are being mean to me or mean to somebody else, maybe they're just not happy with themselves. Maybe they had a bad day. So I don't like to, I just I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So, um,
I love that you
yeah,
said that, and I think that is something I've tried to embrace, and it just helps me get over some insecurities because I know everybody's dealing with something, and if somebody has a problem with the way I am, I mean, it's really a problem with themselves that they are being triggered by just me existing
yeah,
this
exactly.
way.
Well, and because I mean, and as a father, like some of the things that I don't like about my kids, um, are the things that I see. It's like a reflection. The things I don't like in myself, like they do the things that I don't like in myself, and then I catch myself being mad at them for something that they did, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's because I do the same thing, and I don't like that I do that. So, so then I have to apologize, or, you know, um, it's just, I mean, life is just always, we're always growing, and
Can you
we're
give
always
one
having to change.
example? Can you give one example of what you would reprimand your children for that you kind of what you're talking about?
I would say like being late, or because I'll be late to my own funeral. Um, and just kind of the lollygagging, I would say probably would be the biggest thing. And I know that I'm that way, and I don't like it because it's so hard to live life that way when everything's so fast paced. Because I'm a procrastinator. My kids are procrastinators, and and I guess also too that kind of makes me mad that like I feel like they picked that up from me. So, but yeah, procrastination, um, and then sense of urgency. Like there's never any sense of urgency. So yeah, I think
Okay,
those would
thank
be
you.
two. Yeah,
Well, along the lines of parenting, can you talk a little bit about your mom? We'll do your dad next.
sure. Yeah. My mom was pretty much the breadwinner. She was the consistent worker. My dad was always in and out of jobs. Um, I don't, I don't necessarily think that it was his fault. Um, I just think that it was like a bad string of luck, like constantly. Um, like a company layoff, or just I can't really remember. I just know that we moved a lot because he was off to a new job. But my mom always had the same steady job, and but she would work full time and then come home and she would cook, she would clean. Um, she is she is very she's a very sweet person, and she is a good Christian woman, as some would say. Um, I only heard her swear one time, uh, and and she does get angry, so it's not like she's always calm and whatever, but she does get angry. Um, but I think of her as being a very strong, like, yeah, I think that she's a pretty strong person, like to be able to, and it quietly, because I don't think that I think she's put up with a lot of crap, but hasn't really, like, I don't know how to say it, like, she's not expecting like people to notice that. She just does it because that's what she's supposed to do. Like, she's supposed to be a good wife. She's supposed to be a good mom. She's supposed to be a good Christian. Um, so she does it without reward and without expecting it. So, I think that it's put a lot of, I think it's exhausted her, to be honest with you.
Sarah?
Oh, and you were very close to her?
Um, eh, I'm not really, I don't think I'm really close to anybody in my family. Like, I mean, I live in the same town as them, but she'll call me, and then I'll, I might answer the phone. Um,
How about when you were growing up? Were you like really by her side or close to her?
mm, I mean, more so her than my dad, but
Okay.
it's not like I would go, like, I wouldn't go running to my mom for things, at least that I can remember.
Okay.
I didn't, I mean, like when we would go out and do stuff, a lot of times I just remember it was always me with all the girls. So it was like me with my aunt, my mom, and my sister, and my grandmother, which was my mom's mom. So
Okay.
yeah, but I mean, I wasn't going out of my way to be with my mom or hang out with my mom.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And how about your dad?
My dad is, my dad is, I think that he's disappointed in his life. I feel like my dad was really into sports, and I think that in his mind, he felt like he could actually go pro in like some kind of sport, but it didn't happen because it wasn't handed to him. So, um, so he didn't want to work at it. And, but my dad also, his biological father left when he was born. And then the person who I knew as my grandfather and he knew as his dad had adopted him. And then my dad has um, two half brothers, and he has an older sister. But because my dad, um, he, my dad, basically, it was a Hispanic family. So my grandmother, his mother, is she's Hispanic, and then his stepdad was also Hispanic. So being that my dad was the oldest male, he was the one that was responsible for all the kids. So if his half brothers were getting into any trouble, then it was my dad's fault. Um, so I feel like my dad kind of, I don't know, like I feel like he kind of he just wanted to distance himself. And I think that he just, like I just think that he doesn't want to. He wants things kind of handed to him because he's tired of things being taken away from him. So I think a lot of things have been taken away from him without his like no control over it. Like things have been taken away. So I just feel like my dad's pretty bitter, bitter towards the world, and yeah. So
And astrologers, did you get as much information as you need there? Okay. The last category we got here is health. This is just what comes to mind with health, good, bad, in between. What have you struggled with? What are you especially good at? Good at, I don't know, health, if you can be good at something.
I'm good at staying calm. But health wise, like I am overweight. I have been my whole life. Because of that, like I think that's what's called, like I have heartburn, like GERD. But surprisingly, with all the pizza that I ate, I'm in pretty good health. So I'm not diabetic. I'm not even borderline diabetic. I do have high blood pressure. And I do have GERD. But other than that, I'm good. I did have some a work-related injury. My elbows are messed up. But other than that, I'm good. Like I don't have any problems. Like my knees are good, my ankles are good. Never broke a bone. Yeah.
Did you say you have heartburn?
Yeah, I got heartburn. Yeah. GERD.
Oh, I did. I've never heard it called that.
Oh, really?
Gastro and what is it? Gastro something reflux disease?
Yeah. So all that stuff wants to come back up. And so even if I drink water, it's so terrible. Like getting old can be so bad. Like even drinking water, if I drink it too fast or if it's too cold, it's like, that's a mistake. So, yeah.
Have you
Punished by water, man.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You mentioned that you're forgetful. Did you say, do you have any kind of like trouble focusing and concentrating, like maybe ADHD or anything like that?
Probably. I've never been diagnosed, but I mean, I'm terrible with names. Like, in fact, my first wife, I was dating her for over a week before I remembered her name. So, yeah. So, and then I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to make that same mistake. So my second wife is named the same as my first wife. So, so then that way I can't make that mistake again. But, yeah, I am pretty scatterbrained and I forget a lot of stuff. I don't know if it's because I lack focus or I guess maybe. Yeah. I guess maybe because things aren't that, I don't find them that important, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I've never even done like a test, like a online test to see if I have ADD or anything like that. I'm sure if I started, I'd probably just not finish it because it was boring.
Well, that's all. Thank you for sharing on that.
Yeah, no problem. I share too much.
No, you don't.
It's perfect for this show.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We try and get a good portrait of the guest, and you are like filling in the details. It's like a Picasso. Wait, that's the abstract one. It's like a Renoir. All the shading of your character and everything is coming through.
Cool. Good. Well, I'm glad I could help. I really hope that you guys get it right.
Well, that makes 3 of you.
Yeah.
You have a bet going on this or something?
Right. We got a side bet, right, Dave?
Yeah.
That's
what I was wondering.
Astrologers, some other questions that he didn't hit on that you needed to know about?
I feel pretty confident. I feel like Kathy probably does too. I think
I feel
came into this thinking it was one thing and then stayed on that. And I think pretty early in the discussion, we kind of made up our mind.
Right. Well, we love the confidence. And one thing, Dave, before we send you out to the waiting room while they do a little chit chat with each other to see if they're on the same page, I'm going to send you the keywords of these two characters that
Okay.
they've interpreted each of these two charts. And then when we bring you back in, we're going to see if you feel more connected to one of those two.
Okay.
So everybody's got their homework, but we'll see you back here in maybe like 5 or so minutes.
Okay. I'm gonna be honest. I've never been good with homework, so it's probably
Don't worry about it.
probably not gonna get finished. Just to be honest.
Okay.
So when we bring you back, you can say, yeah, I read it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I connected to one of them.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that in a few minutes. So enjoy
Okay.
the break.
All right. Thanks.
We have a
Do-
choice
Yeah.
between, we have a choice, Dave,
Mhm.
between a Capricorn and a Taurus. And drum roll, Dave,
hmm
are you a Taurus?
No,
Oh,
but yeah, I'm.
but
In your defense, I don't really think that I'm a Capricorn. But
well, that'd be
that's-
hard to miss your birthday by that far off.
What's your birthday?
What?
What's your birthday?
January 13th,
My God.
1979.
Ah,
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh
I
boy.
don't, and this is why I've always been such a skeptic as far as astrology goes. Is I don't think that I fit the description of what a Capricorn is.
Yeah, you really don't.
Yeah,
Ah.
I never felt that I do.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a lot to get into on the debrief episode this time. It's always more to unpack when the charts look different than the guest does. So, are you able to stick around, Dave, to
Oh,
do a
yeah.
little recap?
Most definitely.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
I could talk forever.
Oh, perfect. Well, before we let you go, where can people find you if they want to get in touch and hear this podcast or anything else you want to send them to?
Yeah. So the podcast is on Spotify. It is Hoof Hearted. So HOOFHEARTED. Hoof Hearted. And it is not safe for work or for children. So don't listen to it at work or with children, or at least with headphones on. Then you're okay. But you can listen to it there. You can contact me on Instagram. I am Doc Farted on Instagram.
Wait, now we know who farted.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and the secret's out. The secret's out. So I'm Doc Farted on Instagram, and you could also look up our Instagram, Who Farted Podcast on Instagram.
Awesome. I got a podcast to add to my feed now. I'm looking forward to it.
And Kathy, where can people find you?
They can find me at astro.nat, as in the bug, on Instagram. GNAT.
Gotcha.
No, there was a
Great.
GNAT. They're coming up with different domain sites all the time. .nat.
Oh, that's just my Instagram handle because my last name's Gnatic.
Oh, that's Instagram. Okay. I thought that was a website.
No. My website is KathyGnaticastrologer.com.
Okay. I was like, they got .info, .org, and now there's .nat for the real science enthusiasts out there. Okay. Well, we enjoyed everybody joining us for this, and we will see you in 2 days on the debrief episode. For now, that's it, everyone. Let us know what you thought by commenting on whatever platform you follow us on. Links to our accounts are in the show notes. If you like the show and want to support it, you can visit patreon.com/astrodetectivespodcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss the next episode. Rate and review and tell your friends. And until next week, actually, this is the last episode of the season. Until next year, this case is closed. Okay. I'm going to stop recording, then we can jump right back into the show.
Recording stopped.
Okay, ready for debrief?
Yeah.
All right, this is
Go
they
for
just
it.
kind of unpack the whole thing.
Yeah.
Record to the cloud.
Recording in progress.
Hey, listeners out there, it's time for us to unpack that 30th episode. Boy, we were trying to learn. We learned a lot about Dave actually, but it really threw the astrologers for a loop when they found out he was a Capricorn. So we're here to talk about it. Dave is joining us. It's always nice to have the guests stick around so they can chime in. But Sarah, initial thoughts?
I'm still processing this one. Yeah, okay, I would say I felt like the Taurus chart fit him like a glove, except for the other chart had a Gemini rising, and I felt like,
He was so
gosh, there was like the wordplay in the name of your podcast. I was like, that annoyed me a little bit that the chart we picked didn't have the Gemini rising, but I'm really blown away because so many things that you said seem to really fit with the Taurus chart. Like, yeah, so I don't know.
I like to think about the idea of doing a reading with Dave using either chart and both readings turning out kind of the same. So that's kind of interesting, right? I do I Ching. I don't know if you ever have done I Ching before. It's a divinatory practice where it's ancient, it's from China, and you can sort of use it as almost like a Rorschach test of your emotions and what's happening with you. So anyway, I think it would work to do both charts, or I just playing with that idea is interesting to me because there are commonalities you can see, even the fact he's got Chiron in Taurus in the 7th house and the stuff around body image, right? And then Sun Mars square Pluto is very similar to the Sun Mars or the Sun Chiron square Mars. Anyway, it is disappointing. And at the same time, I felt like the other chart fit him. So I just think it's kind of interesting.
And sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, and you go ahead.
Well, I mean, I always feel like they're typically written to be agreeable. Like as you're reading a chart, most of it, 80%, maybe 70% should sound like that could be you. And that's something that I've read about called the Barnum effect, when they're at the circus and they say, like, I can read you details about your life, but it turns out these details fit almost everybody's life. But,
well, can I stop you there and tell you something? Which is this weekend, for example, I was at a fair doing a bunch of readings, read a lot of people, 10 people in a row. 2 women came in with Moon conjunct the South Node, which very typically can relate to loss of mother. For both of them, I said, have you had mother loss in your life? I have that aspect in my chart. And both of them were adopted, right? I didn't ask everyone, but so there are very clearly aspects that are very particular to a person that you find when you read them. So this doesn't sort of change my attitude toward astrology. It just, I also believe in the possibility of, what's the word for it? I don't know if it's synchronicity or the reality that sometimes, like even the fact that you picked these 2 charts today, Mars is opposing Uranus.
Yeah.
And
and that's been in the back of my mind, and I'm like,
exactly.
but I was like, but this isn't going to turn out shocking because this one seems so straightforward.
It's all good.
well, Dave, I was going to ask you, if things like the Barnum effect are in play, typically people will agree with most of the things that are being said about their chart. But what was interesting about what you said is that you don't identify with Capricorn. So even as you're reading a list of attributes of Capricorn, which most people should find a decent amount of stuff in there that they can agree with, you're like, no, that's not me. Tell me about that experience.
Well, every time I look at the description of what Capricorn is, the traits, none of it really resonates. Like there's the thing that I always get from that would be the money, right? They're very hardworking, and they're very good with money. And I'm like, I'm not really good with money, and I wouldn't say I'm a hard worker. I mean, I just do what gets me by. So, I really never really connected with that. And I think the only thing that I ever connected with Capricorn would be like loyalty. But even at that, when it comes to people, I kind of, I can forget people easily. So I've moved since I moved so much in my life, and had to change so many schools. Like, people come and go. So, and I think that's also why I don't remember names, because I don't pay any attention to it. So I don't know. There's just nothing about Capricorn really ever stuck with me, and I think that's why I've always been kind of hesitant to put any truth into astrology.
I feel like remembering names could be one of those Barnum statements. I think all of us, maybe, I mean, with a few exceptions, would say, "Oh yeah, I have trouble with people's names."
Yeah.
We never feel like we're good enough at remembering people's names. And for me, it's because I don't know if I'm going to see this person again. If I'm at a party and I'm hearing somebody's name, I'm like, I don't know. Let's meet 5 more times, and then I'll know if we're actually going to continue knowing each other, and then I'll learn your name.
Yeah, but like my first wife, I was dating her for a week before I remembered her name. So really, I guess I have to be around somebody for at least a week before I put any, like, yeah, I think after a week I'll probably hang out with them more. So I should probably know.
So when
their
people
name by
ask,
now.
when people would ask, "Who are you dating?" you would say, "Oh, her,
Yeah,
her
pretty
over
much.
there. That's it."
When I would call, she lived with her cousin who was a friend of mine. So when I would call over there, if she didn't answer and it was her cousin, I'd be like, "Hey, is your cousin there?" So, and then if she answered, I'd be like, "Hey, what's up, you?" So
you're good at recognizing voices, but not
Yes.
names.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to mimic voices. So, yeah, I pay attention to voices.
Well, astrologers would tell you that it's not all about your sun sign. There's a lot of other things in your chart which explain why a sun sign wouldn't fit. So I'm sure there's something else in a different placement that, well, looking at his actual chart,
Yeah.
can you guys make that fit with him now?
Well, he does have the sun conjunct Mars, which, even though Mars is exalted in Capricorn and it likes to be in Capricorn, he is a day chart, so that makes Mars his malefic, which means just the planet that may cause him the most ill ease. And so to have that conjunct your sun, that can be, I guess, similar to what we were seeing with the sun conjunct Chiron, uncomfortable in your own skin. And I actually, when you were talking about, when I asked you that and you said, yes, I would like try to pull my fingers and move. And it was like, I remember looking at that sun Mars and I was like, that's interesting. But I mean, I there were only a couple of things that you said that made me kind of ring a few bells with the Capricorn chart.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Sun Mars in the 8th house is a weaker position. So, and can relate to sort of having anxiety as well, right? And then the other thing, the Saturn North Node in the 4th house of home and family would be much more relatable to that idea of moving around and having sort of the childhood be difficult for that, right? And then, yeah, Chiron in that 12th house squaring that sun as well.
And I think the Taurus energy that we were getting could have been this Moon and Leo conjunct Jupiter.
Right? Because
it's a similar kind of like, you can get 2 + 2 = 4, but so does 5 - 1. You could have similar combinations.
And then also
that to me strikes very true. And I guess that's my whole thing, is you can get to the same person with all of these different.
Yeah, but 6 - 1 isn't 4. So you can't always get to it, but there are
6
similar.
- 1, you'd be like, well, let's look at this other one, which is
You're
3
just
plus
making that
1.
up. That's not how it would be, but
That's new math.
yeah,
New
that's
math, show your work.
alternative thought.
Yeah, alternative thought.
I
That's
was
right.
I was focused mainly on I got to come up with numbers that add up to 4, and I didn't miss that out. Didn't mess that up.
I don't know. That's my analogy, but like, so, we're getting his story and we're, trying to match certain elements of his story up to these placements. But, this is doing astrology in reverse, so it's trickier.
Well, and it's also, as I think I started out the conversation, I don't think astrology is something you prove or you don't prove, right? The scientific method doesn't fit with the soul. It's a very different thing. So anyway, it just is what it is. And you can describe or find reasons and everything, but that's more like the lawyer part. That's not how I practice astrology, right? How you practice astrology is being open to the person that's in the room with you and seeing where your intuition leads you as far as what strikes you in the chart. And it leads you down a path of being able to engage with someone in a really deep way to help them understand what's happening for them at any given moment. And it works.
And see, I agree with all of that. I think you could take any chart, though, not just their chart, and sit down with them and based on the language of astrology, have a very deep conversation with them, help them find a lot of introspection, looking in areas that maybe they haven't thought about, connecting with areas that they do really relate to. And so in that sense, you could say that, yes, it works.
Can I stop you there? Because, I don't think that's true, because part of what really works with astrology is being able to see yourself very clearly in the chart. So, for example, I have Jupiter in the 7th house of partnership, and it rules my 2nd house of money. And one of the first things one of the astrologers said to me is, when I had my first reading, is, well, I'll bet you, do you have a husband who makes a lot of money and helps support you in what you do, which is a very, that's what that relates to. And I could see Jupiter there. She explained it to me, and it helped me connect with the chart. Whereas if Saturn had been, if you had given her a chart with Saturn in the 7th house, and it was ruling my 2nd house, and she said, I'll bet your husband's a real tightwad, I would have said, no, you're absolutely wrong. That doesn't fit. So I don't think what you're saying is so.
I think generally we remember the times that it connects, the times that it's right. And we kind of gloss over the times that it's not quite right. Or we'll kind of make a little adjustment and say, like, oh, you said my mom's missing. I'm either adopted or my mom passed away, or there's a lot of different options, or I lost my aunt and she was like a mom to me, or, different things like that, where it's close enough that most people would probably say yes. And even if they don't say yes and they would say it's wrong, they would just kind of say, well, that's one that I'm not going to remember. I'm going to focus on the thing that was right.
And
If that's how astrology worked, I wouldn't be studying it. I would have given it up, because it's if it was that wishy-washy and that inconsistent, or you had to be like, well, I can see that, or it didn't always line up, then I wouldn't be wasting my time.
Yeah. And also there's the timing piece that we're not doing here. So for example, that South Node Moon mother loss, there's something called a nodal return that happens every 9 years. So this is why I say people need to really study it for themselves in relation to their own life, because you can go back, and I can go back and look at every 9 years when the South Node conjoined the moon, and at that point having a mother loss in my life. My sister died on a South Node conjunct moon. My mom died. Do you see what I mean? Or I left home. And so there's a consistency. Or for example, the moment I got a job offer to be a reader at a store, the planet Venus entered my 10th house the same day, right? So there's very specific stuff. If you get if you study it and you actually practice it and relate it to your own life, that you can see that it works. So
Specific times when it works that we
no,
focus
no,
on.
no, I'm saying that I consistently see that it works, that it's a matter of you, Scott, would actually have to study astrology and do the work and see how it relates to your own life, that you cannot, from the outside of one's experience, treat it as if it's a scientific method, right? Because science is cause and effect. That's Newtonian science. What we're talking about here is more Einsteinian. It's about the self itself and the relation to the self. And so it cannot be debunked by sort of the details of a particular chart.
If there's claims that astrology makes, that's just what we're trying to test. And so I guess we kind of started by saying an astrologer can look at a chart, tell a lot of details about a person based on looking at their chart, enough to meet that person and tell which chart they're looking at.
Yeah, and I didn't agree with that from the beginning, is I guess what I'm saying when I almost didn't come on the show because I was like, this is not a way to test astrology. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dave, are you convinced?
Am I convinced about what?
Astrology being real.
Honestly, like I feel that there is some truth to it. But I think, and this is where the alternative thought comes in. I think that the true knowledge of it has been hidden or hasn't been. It's kind of like the game of telephone, where it as it gets passed down and taught to somebody else, some pieces get missing or are missing. So I feel that the astrology of today isn't as accurate as when it began. I feel like there are pieces missing. So that's my opinion on it. I do think that there is some truth. I do think that I do think a lot of people can see themselves in a lot of different signs. But I just, for me personally, I've never felt like I was a Capricorn. And then my wife and I, we were talking before, and my wife is what are the twins? Isn't that Gemini?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a Gemini. So, and then she's like, we're not supposed to be compatible. And I'm like, well, that's baloney. So, well, good thing I'm not really a Capricorn. So,
well, you're a Gemini rising, and so that would make you compatible.
Does it? Okay. See, and that's the thing. She doesn't know all of the other, like, she's like, I don't know the houses. I don't know the rising. I don't know any of this. So,
yeah, so astrologers don't look at just your sun sign to determine compatibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and
I also want to make. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say one more thing, which is you said something like, so there's also the mystery of astrology because, so I can have the fantasy right now that the self is playing a bit of a game with us, even in what happened today, right? That you had these two charts and one seemed very obvious. Because there is the truth that if you practice deep inner work, the world begins to unfold to you. So even astrology with me, there are moments when parts of it open to me when I need to know something new, or I start to have the same people coming to me with similar attributes. And so in the ancient Greek times, astrology, like other esoteric practices, alchemy, things like that, they were practiced as part of a mystery school, Plato's mystery school, for example. And they were not shared with the world, these methodologies, right? And so here we are on a show where we're tampering with something in some ways that's sacred, attempting to prove it using a method that does not work for sacred practices. So I'm going to throw that out there too, that I don't, I have to throw that out there because I'm not sure this is to be spoken in some ways and to be proved. And it feels a little violative of the practice to engage in trying to use data or statistics to prove or disprove it. So there you go.
I can respect your opinion on that. I mean, I see where you're coming from for sure.
And with that, I think we all need to go because it's late for me here.
Well, that's the way we'll end season 1, and we will see everybody next year.
Scott, we're gonna have a retrace, so
Oh, there is a retraced, but
Yeah.
this is the last experiment, and hopefully we'll have some data next year to pour over. Next week we'll have a retraced. We'll talk about everything and answer your questions. Hopefully you got some questions in last week in time. Now it's too late as you're hearing this. So thank you to Dave. Again, where can we hear your podcast and find you?
It is Hoof Hearted on Spotify. And you can find me, Doc Farted, on Instagram. And you could also find Hoof Hearted Podcast on Instagram.
And Kathy, where can everybody find you?
KathyGanaticastrologer.com and astro.nat is my Instagram handle.
And since it's the final episode, Sarah, where can people find you?
yeah, good. Thank you, Scott. So you can find me at mycosmiccoach.com and on Instagram.
All right. You can find me. Maybe I'll have to get on Instagram again because this season's over and I'll have something to do with my free time. My pictures are great on Instagram. Come look at a bunch of old pictures that haven't been updated in years. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. We really do appreciate you all the subscriptions and the comments and likes and this and that. And we'll see you next week for Retrace. And then we'll see you next year for more fun adventures in astrology. Bye. Okay.
All right, thank you. And Dave, could you email us a photo
Recording stopped.
of yourself that we could use in the marketing?
Yeah,
And
sure.
Kathy, if you don't mind doing that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. It was fun.
This
Yeah.
will air a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
Sounds good. Nice to see you, Dave. It was really a pleasure listening to your stories.
Oh, well, yeah. Again, I apologize for being so chatty, but yeah, that's what I do.
No, it works. It was almost like last episode of the year. Let's just go ahead and just like let it roll.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate
All
it.
right. Good night.
All right.
Right.
Good night.
Take care, guys. Now, how do you hang up?
Oh yeah. We're gonna do some extra recording, so we go like, gotta go, Dave.
Get out of here. Okay. All right. We're figuring it out. All right. Bye.